Well, what a day it's been at Pittodrie. Earlier today, Aberdeen Football Club confirmed that Barry Robson and his assistant Steve Agnew will remain as the interim manager until at least the end of the season. And not long after that, even better news was coming out of Pittodrie that Barry Robson has been named as the Scottish Premiership Manager of the Month for March. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg AB TV this Wednesday night. How you doing? It's been a wee while since I've seen you. Hope all you're doing well. Well, what a day it's been. So I just thought we'd jump on and just react instantly to the news coming out of Pittodrie today. So the floor is open to you guys. So I very much want you to have your say about Barry Robson being told that basically after what was an interview process that he shall remain Aberdeen's interim manager until at least the end of the season. So I would like to get your reaction. So if you're watching for the first time, how you doing? All you have to do is under the video, there's a comments section. Just leave your comments there. Please be very respectful. That's what we like to do here on Ali Beg AB TV. Please don't use bad language and just be respectful to everyone else that comes on, and feel free to interact with each other as well. So I'll be reading out most of your comments tonight. There's no time limit on tonight's show, so we can just go as we see fit. I do have two guests on tonight, so we'll be talking to Richard Wilkinson, who runs a very popular Aberdeen fans page on Facebook called Aberdeen FC, the Monitoring Board. And I'm also going to be speaking to big Aberdeen fan and Scottish football correspondent for The Times, Michael Grant. So those are our guests tonight, but the floor is open to you guys. So come and tell me how your day has been and how did you react to today's news. So obviously the football club put out a statement earlier today. The chairman had his say, so I've sort of paraphrased it for you. So let's go through it. This is what the chairman had to say. The club embarked on a clear and patient process where directors of football Stephen Gunn led the vetting of all inbound applications as well as managing an outbound search, teaming up with an external agency to unearth candidates that matched our criteria. Once the potential manager pool was down to 6 candidates, Stephen and Chief Executive Alan Burrows, together with non-executive directors Willie Garner and Stuart Milne, conducted interviews. He went on to say, 3 candidates, including Barry, met with this group in person for further in-depth discussions over the last week. The board subsequently met to debate the outcome of these interviews and discussions. It was unanimously agreed that Barry should continue in his role to the end of the season. And it finished off by saying, we believe that continuing the momentum, high standards and energy that Barry has instilled in the squad with only 9 league games to go is critical to the club achieving its goal of European football next season. So that's what the chairman had to say earlier today. We'll also be doing a little bit about how Barry Robson reacted to the news as well. So before we get to Richard Wilkinson, let's open it up early doors and see how many of you are on tonight. And let's get your opinions in as well. Okay. Oops, sorry. Let's get that down. Delighted to see so many of you on. Good evening to Alexander Wallace. Good evening to Scott W. Good evening to Ewan Grant, who says, I'm still buzzing from last night. Some result that was. Good to see Reds, even former, doing the business at the top of international football. Brilliant result for Scotland last night. Mark Robertson has said good morning, afternoon, evening to all. Can't be bothered has said good evening. Kaiser has said still on a high from last night. Absolutely tremendous stuff from the boys. Fraser Gunn has said greetings. Not going to lie, I wanted an experienced manager in now. That said, Barry has done well, and it goes without saying, I will be behind him. Come on, you Reds. Jason Campbell has said, well deserved, chuffed for Barry. Scott W. has said, does this tell us that there are a high number of candidates for the position, or is the polar opposite and no one is interested? I discussed that very same thing with Richard Wilkinson coming up in just a moment. Malcolm Park has said good evening to everybody. Kaiser has said, I think it's only right Baza gets a chance to prove what he can do. Bill W. has said he's chuffed for Barry and his backroom staff, but what's with the Liam Fox rumours? Any truth that he's joining the team? So I genuinely don't know whether he is or not. At the moment, it's all speculation, it's all rumours, it's all internet talk. I think it was quite interesting today, reading between the lines, that there was no mention of Liam Fox joining during that statement, because I think if he is going to join, today would have been the perfect time to announce that, to coincide with the news that Barry is obviously going to stay as interim manager. That's what I think. So who knows? We continue to speculate. Malcolm Parker said, he's done enough for me to deserve this shot until at least the end of the season. Ewan Grant has said, big congratulations to Barry. I think this is the right choice. Barry gets a chance with lots at stake in the remaining games, and we have more time to look around if it doesn't work out. Alexander Wallace has said, only sensible decision they could make for now. Can't Be Bothered has said, my only issue with this is Stephen Gunn has had something to do with this decision. What happens if they decide Barry isn't the man before the summer? Another disaster of a transfer window. David Gold has said, it was the right call to appoint Barry and Steve. They have united the squad and got us organised. Score. I think it's great news, giving one of our own a shot at it. Does he get a say in players to come in though? We need to start to work on the rebuild. David Gold has said, a fox amongst the sheep. Skoska has asked, did Fox not get announced as first team coach with the youth development players? Unless I completely missed that, I didn't see it. In fact, I've got the statement right here. So let's see. And as I'm looking through it, I can't see anything from the official press release that came out earlier this afternoon. Nothing on there at all. So unless there's something on the website which I completely missed, please get in touch and let me know. Okay, so let's get to Richard Wilkinson. So please take into consideration that this interview was conducted earlier this morning, before the news broke that Barry has become our interim manager until the end of the season. So please take that into consideration. So Richard Wilkinson, if you're not aware of him, he's the admin of a very popular Facebook page for Aberdeen fans called Aberdeen FC, the Monitoring Board, and we discussed everything Barry Robson and more. Richard Wilkinson. Good morning. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very happy after that Scotland result last night. That's put a smile on my face, a skip in my step, and ready for the cinch to return this weekend.
Yeah, it set us up nicely, hasn't it? Right, so I thought I'd get you on today to have a little discussion about where we are with the manager's position at the football club. So first and foremost, let's talk about your page. Let's gauge the reaction from the page. Tell me, what was the general consensus after the reports, because it's still not been officially confirmed yet at the time of recording, that Barry will be in charge to the end of the season?
I think it's very mixed. I think I posted something last night before the Scotland game, and I sort of, the basic question is, do you think the club have made the right call on giving Barry Robson and team the job until the end of the season? And I kind of put a load of reasons why this may or may not be such a good thing. I think it's very mixed. I think, we as Aberdeen fans have seen the highs, seen the lows. I think the bigger picture in all of this is we clearly haven't got anybody any better to take the job yet. So why not just, buy us some time with Barry, who seems to be doing a good enough job until the end of the season. And I think, there are fans on board who think that that's a good idea. And, as I said, the implication being that if you've got nobody better to do it, then why not? But I think there is also a bit of concern about the fact that it's been since January and we, now it's pretty much into April and we don't have anybody supposedly lined up. And now we're looking April, May, this 14 players at least potentially to leave, and going, anybody who comes in has to hit that ground running. Whether we're in Europe or whether we're in the League Cup next season, that's July. And to replace 14 players in the space of about 8 weeks, that so I think the general consensus, and I'm just sort of scrolling through the comments, is going, um, Barry's doing a good job, and until he stops doing a good job, and there's nobody in place to replace him, why not give it to him to the end of the season? That being pretty much the option that we're presented with. I think, as I said, there's no other option. If there was somebody who was chapping on the door going, yes, surely they would be manager by now.
Okay, so I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, just purely for the sake of debate. This is not necessarily my personal opinion. You touched on it earlier, though. Has if we are to um, if we are to believe the reports, does this suggest that one, they have not been able to secure the guy that they wanted, and two, because of this huge squad turnaround that is facing a new manager, has all of a sudden Aberdeen Football Club become slightly of a less attractive option?
I think we have to, if you're an aspiring up and coming manager in Europe or anywhere in the world, I think you do have to take stock. And I think, much as we'd like to believe that we're a great club and we are going places, our history over the past couple of years has suggested that's not the case. You also have to have somewhat of an open mind of going, it's a two-horse race league in our country with Celtic and Rangers. And so what is the win for any aspiring European manager coming into Aberdeen Football Club? Yes, we're going places. Yes, the chairman talks a good game. But I think to counter, not so much to counter, but to respond to your point there, the longer this goes on, that sort of impending deadline of players leaving gets closer. It doesn't sort of kind of go away. Mm. So this I don't know if you saw the comments from this guy Jess Thorpe's agent, who was allegedly linked to the club, but this sort of the comments of the club was in chaos, possibly lost in translation, possibly a little harsh, but they're not that far from the truth. We in Burrows and our football monitoring board or whatever, we don't really have the foundation set in stone just quite yet to go, this is a club that knows what it's doing, that's going places, that is ready for action. And I think, again, the Robson at the moment is a safe pair of hands that buys Alan Burrows some time to find the right guy. But I wouldn't expect it to get any easier as time progresses to find the right guy. And again, as time progresses, it's going, so you've spent 3, 4, 5 months potentially looking for somebody. This guy's increasingly going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders because Aberdeen fans are going, well, you spent so long getting this guy, he better be bloody good, So I know I've been a little bit dramatic the past few times I've been chatting to you. It's a bit of a concern. I mean, yeah. I would, if it was me, and you're in essentially April now, and you've got 8, 9 games left of the season, just give the job permanently to Barry Robson up until such point as, if he's not the right guy, but at least that's kind of setting your stall out to go, we've seen enough for the time being. We know full well if it comes to October, November, and Barry's sitting in 9th place and, we've been doing terribly or whatever, then you're going to have to get somebody else. But one assumes that you've at least been doing your homework now to go, okay, we know who's out there. We've done this thorough job of looking for applicants, looking for candidates. But I think the planning for next season starts now.
Yeah.
And that's my main concern of going, this is not happening. We're just, sort of treading water until we're at a point where we do find somebody better, or just give it to Barry for next season too. I think you either go all in and go, Barry, you're the manager now. If you haven't got anybody better, so that he can plan ahead and kind of do what he needs to do, And yeah, I mean that seems like a logical way forward rather than just kind of postponing because you don't have any better.
Mm.
And I'm sure you're going to go and talk about it. The appointment of Liam Fox suggests that there is a slightly surely longer term plan in place, but I don't know. That one's a boggles the head completely.
Yeah, that discussion is to come. Fella, thank you so much, because I know you've got a really busy day, so I appreciate you jumping on as always.
No worries.
Chat to you soon, fella.
Up the Dons.
Stand free. So let's remind you of Barry's stats. Played 6, won 4, lost 2, goals scored 11, goals against 9. But more importantly, he's got the team playing some excellent football. He's brought them all together, and they look like a team who are desperate to win football matches. And let's be honest, the way we've been performing recently is absolutely night and day to what it was since the turn of the year. So Barry had this to say: both Steve and I are delighted and honoured to be asked by the board to continue in our current roles and to demonstrate our ability to lead the team in the longer term. We have had a tremendous reaction from the players, and they deserve a huge amount of credit for the way they've bought into things we have asked them to do. He went on to say, I fully understand what our objectives are between now and the end of May, and I will work as hard as I possibly can together with the excellent staff group at the club to deliver on those expectations. I also think it says an awful lot for Barry that when he did his press call photographs today to receive the Manager of the Month, that he made sure that all his backroom staff, his coaches, were with him. I think that says so much of the type of character that Barry is. And if you ask me, the type of character that I absolutely think and deserves a chance to be the next Aberdeen manager. Okay, let's get back to some of your comments, because there's lots coming in tonight. It's great to see you all. Jim Balfour has said, good evening, looking forward to watching this one. I'm a little bit worried we do another Paul Hegarty job, but good luck to Barry Robson. Mark Robertson has said, was on the fence, but I think we have bought some time right now. We still need to think about transfers and who will lead. Possibly need to make a definitive call before the season ends. Scott W. has said, my main concern with appointing him is that as soon as we lose a few games, the fans will be moaning that the club has taken the cheap option, as some are fond of saying. Kaiser has said, as I've said before, none of the folk we've been linked does it for me. Robson knows the club and he's already in the hot seat. Kaiser has said he thinks that hundreds of coaches would have applied for the job. No need to worry about that. Score has reminded us that there was a list of over 100 the last time. Can't see there being any less this time. Malcolm Park says it all for me. He got on the 3-man shortlist and came out on top. Could just be that his vision for the team was better than any of the other applicants. Duncan Forbes has said, out of who's available, who's better than Barry within our budget? Ticks all the job description boxes, is also willing to take the reduced salary to up sticks and move to Aberdeen. Well, he already lives in Aberdeenshire. He's already, and he's been up this way I say. He's been up the northeast for many, many years now. So in terms of salary, who knows? Absolutely who knows? Bill W. has said, only chaos I've seen at Aberdeen recently is the red shed, and I want more of that. Can't be bothered has said, the biggest problem for me is who is picking these candidates. Stephen Gunn, Stuart Milne and Willie Gardner should be nowhere near this decision. Okay, so look, I respect your opinion. Of course I do. I don't agree with it though, because I tell you why. The board of directors have put their trust in Stephen and Willie and Stuart to find the right candidate. And I'm absolutely sure that Alan Burrows has got a huge say in this as well. And it will be, at the end of the day, it will probably be his final decision, if not the chairman's final decision. So I guess Alan Burrows will be overseeing it all, And I have no doubt that he will also be very heavily involved in the interview process as well. Scott W. said, I don't mind the club taking their time over appointing a full-time manager. It shows they're not just wanting to give the job to any Joe Blogs. They want the right man. Yeah, it's a good point. Kaiser said, I really saw the difference in energy in that Hearts game. In Goodwin year in charge, we never had energy like that. Completely agree. Skosko has come on again to say, Barry's records say he deserves a shot. Why would a club dump a guy who has turned us around and is winning games? The attitude is 100% what we want from our players. Again, completely agree. Malcolm Parker said, I'd reckon by the wording, Scott, is that the job is Robson if he proves enough between now and the end of the season. I've got to be honest. The wording for me also, don't want to read too much into it, but it's Barry's to lose. Let's put it that way. It's his to lose. David Gold has said, would love to know who the club talked to before appointing Robson. David Gold, not complaining though. I lumped a tenner on Robson many weeks ago. Good for you. Skosko has said, love the way Barry talks about the club, staff and players. Yeah, I agree. I just think he just gets it. He just gets it. And I think what helps is because he's a local lad as well, who's played the game to the very highest level. And because he's lived in the area now for so long, and he's in and around the club, he's in and around the fans all the time. He lives it, he breathes it. He just gets it for me. And I only think you really understand the DNA and the fabric of the football club if you are in and about it and live in the area. Do you know what I'm saying? Kind of get where I'm coming from. I just think that helps. I just think it's a big factor in it. Scott W. said, ideally the new man should be appointed before the end of the season. Even if he's not announced until the season ends, he needs time to assess the squad and ident potential signings. Alexander Wallace has said, I prefer this no-win scenario to the good-win one we have already endured. Pak Gien, hope I've pronounced that. Welcome to the show. I do wonder if we've had managers turned off by recruiting process. Are we going route of club who decides to sign and all managers does make the teamwork to a designated style? Yeah, I understand what you're saying completely. Look, it's potentially 14 players that are either out of contract or who would have to go back to their parent clubs come at the end of the season. It's a huge rebuild again. And whoever, if they decide to continue the due diligence and continue to try and look for a new manager, just give Barry that breathing space, the new manager knows that he's going to come into a job straight away where recruitment is absolutely vital. So yeah, it's certainly going to be a few very interesting months coming up between now and particularly the end of the season, and then the beginning of the season as well, because the recruitment, 14 players, it's a squad. Okay, let's get to Michael Grant. So Michael is the Scottish football correspondent for the Times newspaper. Huge Aberdeen fan, wrote a brilliant Aberdeen book called Fergie Rises. I'm sure you've read it. So I caught up with Michael just before we came on air tonight to discuss everything that was happening at Pittodrie today. Here's Michael. Hi Michael, great to see you. I know you've had a very busy day with Scotland and all of that, so I'll crack on so that I won't keep up too much of your time. First of all, can I get your instant reaction to today's big news coming out of Pittodrie about Barry Robson?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, Ali, doesn't it? Barry deserves a bit more time in the job. The results since he took over have been generally pretty impressive. He steadied the ship. I mean, by God, it needed steadying, certainly, after the collapse in January under Jim Goodwin. And I think he's changed the kind of perception amongst the supporters about his capabilities and his potential to be a candidate properly going forward for the job. I think it makes sense to give him it till the end of the season and just remove the kind of uncertainty and the speculation that's going on around the amongst the fans about where we go next. It buys them a little bit of time. The other thing, though, I would say is it sends out a pretty clear message to me that there's no outstanding candidate out there. The statement talks about them interviewing two others as well as Barry. And, obviously those two have not been impressive enough to convince the board that they're more convincing, have better attributes than Robson. So I can understand them not wanting to shake up what is at the moment a winning side and the momentum that there is around a winning side.
So what do you think, and I know we're only going to play guessing games here, but I'm interested to get your opinion on it. So what do you think would happen from here going forward? Do you think they'll continue their due diligence process? Do you think they'll continue to look at candidates? Or do you think they'll just leave Barry to crack on and then start making a decision again at the end of the season?
Well, those two things can run in parallel, can't they? I mean, I'm sure they will leave Barry alone to get on with the job, but they can still be looking at the market and looking at who's available. And management is a merry-go-round. Bosses will become available. There'll be vacancies, and people will shift and potentially come onto Aberdeen's radar. I think. Well, Barry can certainly make himself more attractive to the club by securing European football, and obviously the higher he finishes, the more certain that you would feel that he would get the job. I think if he finishes third, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think fourth and fifth, then they would still have a decision to make. I don't think you should be rushing into giving Barry Robson the job if he finishes fourth or fifth as an interim manager. But again, it will depend in May, June time, as it does now, on who's available and who's interested. And so far, what are we now? A couple of months down the line since Goodwin left? Clearly, there's nobody out there that is interested and convincing to the club. So we have to hope that changes in May, or else that Barry really convinces us in the remaining, whatever it is, 9 games, is it?
Yeah, 9 games, yeah, exactly. So, brilliant. Michael, thank you. I'm going to let you go because I know you've still got a bundle of work to do. So thank you for taking the time to jump on, and I'll chat with you again soon.
No problem, Ali, anytime.
Top man. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on tonight. So keep your comments coming in. Just for what it's worth, I personally am absolutely delighted that Barry has been given an opportunity to prove his salt. I've loved how we've played since he's come on board. I love how he's re-energised us. I love how he's pulled everybody together. He's got us all singing from the same hymn sheet. And from what I can understand, he's got Cormack Park buzzing again. Now, I think it's vitally important that a group of players and managers and coaches have a very strong bond and a very strong connection. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that wasn't the case before, but from what I hear and from what I can understand, that sort of working group of people is a lot stronger than what it was before. Let's put it that way. So I think I think he deserves a shot. And again, when you look at the list of candidates who the bookies put together and newspapers put together and all that sort of stuff, for me, there was not one standout candidate. And that was not a concern, but I was starting to think, okay, there isn't really anybody on this list that really does it for me. You know, I quite fancied Steve Clarke. I've said that before. But I think, you know, I was delighted to see he signed his new deal with Scotland. He's doing unbelievably well with Scotland, as we all know. He's turned it around there. I keep banging the drum about this chap out here in where the region where I live, in Germany, Austrian border, this guy Adi Hutter. If we decide to go down the route of a European manager, who knows? But I think because Barry has got us playing the type of football that's exciting again, because of the way he's just galvanised the whole club, I just think he deserves a shot. So I'm absolutely delighted for him. I really am. And just want to wish him nothing but the very best of luck. And also, I've got to be honest, so I posted earlier today on Facebook that I was going to do the show tonight And then a little bit later in the afternoon, I sort of posted that he won the Manager of the Month for March. And it's had unbelievable traction on Facebook. Over 1,000 people on the post about him winning the Manager of the Month. And everybody's absolutely delighted from all the comments, everybody. But the one about the show that we're going to do tonight, you know, so many people have left comments, and there is not one who has said this is the wrong call, this is a bad call, this is not the right decision by the football club. Not one. And I find that particularly interesting, because sometimes in these scenarios you do occasionally get the odd one or two popping up saying, not sure. Some of you have expressed concerns about, you know, the recruitment process. What if we get into Europe? Lack of experience in Europe and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, what I'm hoping is that Barry's playing career, where he played at the very highest level in the Champions League, you know, has maybe put him in some sort of good stead to prepare for that. I don't know. I just personally, I'm just absolutely delighted he's on board. And we've got over 100 of you watching tonight. I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you so much for coming on. Absolutely brilliant. So let's get back to your comments before we finish off tonight. I swear to God, man, I need to get my eyes checked. I can't see anymore. I'm warm, but I can't see anymore. Park Yin has come back and said, not necessarily a bad thing, but how many managers want to give up making own stamp on a team and good enough for Euro football? David Gold has reminded everybody that Robson is an Inverurie lad, so is very much at home here. Kaiser said that so many ins and outs coming in the summer. Glad to see a lot of you having fun between yourselves as well tonight. Kaiser said, we're in the driving seat for Europe now. It would be very disappointing if we didn't make it. Don't forget, depending who wins the cup, you know, that could free up 5th place potentially for the Conference League. So, look, potentially 5 spots for Europe. Sugarland has said, happy with the appointment, and I think the coded message from AFC is that Steve Agnew staying on as long as Barry is here indicates where this is going. I agree. Sko has come back and said, Barry has done a great job in getting rid of the massive fatigue problems we were suffering. Agreed. Duncan Shand has said, well, chuff for Barry. It will be interesting about players who are going to be out of contract. Scott W has said, whatever happens, the next manager has to get at very least 2 seasons. Can't be bothered has said, remember to hit the like button. Yes, please. If you enjoy the show tonight, please hit that like button for me. It just helps. It just helps YouTube algorithms and the way YouTube works, and yeah, it just helps massively. So if you enjoy the show, please, easy. I'd just be very grateful if you could jump that on. Jim Balfour. Jim, I'm going to leave you to have your own fun with the boys tonight. It's called me a coward. Jeff Moran has said, Liam Fox. So, as we mentioned earlier, so I was looking through the official press release that came from the football club today. Absolutely no mention of Liam Fox whatsoever. And I mentioned earlier that if there was going to be anything happening with Liam Fox, if he was going to come in, I thought today would be the perfect time to announce that as well, given that Barry's going to get this sort of period until the end of the season. But absolutely nothing. So again, as I've said, unless I've missed it online, I do apologise, but there was nothing from the official press release. Doing my best, Jim. Kaiser said, there seems to be a lot more contentment now through the squad. Nobody really had anything good to say about Goodwin. Yeah, I think so too. Right, guys, we have done over 30 minutes. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant. As always, love having you on, and I'm absolutely delighted that you interact and you come on. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. I will be back on Saturday morning, usual time, 10 o'clock, to preview the St Johnstone game at McDermott Park. So, we just keep on going. So, thanks, guys, and have a brilliant night, and I'll see you again on Saturday morning. Take care. Bye for now.